as we move into kind of tools of the trade, there's some key curriculum components and resources we want you to be aware of that you may have used in the past or you may not have, but either way, they are kind of core components to kind of how we want to encourage just a lesson plan here in Arlington. So we're going to do a little bit of learning around that. On your link sheet, am I sharing my screen at all? No. There we go. Nope, that's the wrong screen, folks. Again, I say I apologize. We are having some difficulties. Okay. Are you seeing the Canvas course right now? Okay, good, because my little green box that usually tells me what you're looking at is not showing up, so I'm just making sure. So as we move through this, on your link sheet, you will see a question, of course, over at 2:25. No, we're done at 4, I believe. I'm going to try to end a little early if at all possible. On your link sheet, you'll see a TRS link, TEKS Resource System link. I'm going to invite you to go to that link. And then I remembered the answer to a question that was asked earlier. I have a demo login you'll be able to use. Since your official teacher login may not be up and running yet, I do have something you're going to be able to use. So, TEKS Resource System, what is this thing? So, TEKS Resource System is provided by CCNPC, and basically what they're doing is they're providing curriculum components, sample assessments that are aligned to the state-provided TEKS. And in Arlington, in the past, what we've done is my department actually wrote our curriculum ourselves from the ground up. But what we noticed is that we felt like we were putting together really quality curriculum piece. We noticed that as we had students come in and out of our district from other places, they may not be in the same learning zone as our Arlington students were, and so that caused some gaps in learning. What we found was TEKS Resource System is a platform that's actually used by a huge percentage of the state, and so by adopting this, we give our teachers flexibility to generate sorry, I'm trying to answer questions in the chat while I move through this. It provided really quality curriculum that allowed our teachers to still generate some pretty unique classroom experiences while still following a scope and sequence, a plan that matched up with teachers around the district. And as we have become more of a mobile district with kids moving in and out, it meant that kids coming to us now were more frequently in line with where we are in the curriculum, as well as our kids going to other places were more in line. So that's kind of why we adopted TEKS Resource System. Again, and I've kind of got ahead of myself. This slide sums a lot of that up. We chose it for mobility of students, that concept-based learning. It meets all the requirements that TEA is asking us to meet in preparation for the STAR test. And again, it keeps up with changing curriculum. It's a living document, actually. So the folks at the different regions, service centers that help put that together are constantly updating as the state releases new information, or as you as teachers can actually send them feedback and ask them questions, which can result in edits and changes to the curriculum. So it's not something that every few years has to be overhauled. It gets updated as we go. Alignment. This is just a quick graphic showing kind of how this all works. The curriculum we get from the state, that's the TEKS. The tested curriculum is the STAR. The state provides all of that. The taught curriculum is what's happening in your classroom, and that's where TEKS Resource System comes in. It helps bridge from what the state provided in the beginning and how they expect to evaluate it in the end. This is where we are in implementation as a district. Some small group of math and science courses actually started using TRS last school year. This year it rolls out to grades 3 through 12. all platforms, or all 4 content areas will use this platform. And then in 21-22, math and science will begin using the K2 TRS platform. There's not currently a K2 platform that we have adopted for ELAR. There are some key components that we are going to look at here in a minute. For vertical alignment, TEKS clarification, year at a glance, TEKS verification, our resources page, and IFD. Those are the key pieces we get with TRS. There's a whole lot more, but those are the ones we're going to focus on. As we begin this, we're going to do a Kahoot, everybody. I like Kahoot. Some people hate Kahoot. I like Quizzes better, but Kahoot is good. We're going to do a classic Kahoot. There are already a bunch of people in this Kahoot. All right. I'm going to mute that in case it's really loud on your end. If you would indulge me and join the Kahoot on a device, that would be great. While I get caught up in the chat. All right, give a few minutes. I know everybody may not feel like playing the Kahoot, but you know, a little brain break, right? Then you get to rock out to the incredible Kahoot music. All right. If you've never used Kahoot before, this is a fun platform if you're trying to do some quick formative assessment. It does operate off of multiple choice, so again, it's good for a quick formative assessment, but not necessarily if you're trying to get deeper thinking from the kids. One recommendation I will tell you in your classroom is you're going to want to make sure you encourage the kids to use their real names, because there's nothing more fun than trying to do any data tracking with Kahoot and realize that you don't know who Playa 358 is because you don't have a student with that name on your roster. So you may want to encourage them with that. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get us going. I'm not saying you have to change your name now. We're all adults here. Oh, and yes, Paley pointed out the dirty names. Yeah, that's always fun too. The first time you get an appropriate name pop up on the screen, especially if they win. That's rough. Inappropriate emojis, yes. All of the reasons, especially working with 6th through 8th graders, they're really coming into their own as far as propagating inappropriate material goes. And it's something to keep an eye on. All right, we're going to get started just because this isn't the focal point of this section. Here we go. Question 1, according to research, which of the following contributes to student success? Answers come pouring in. All right. Yes. I'm going out on a limb and assuming whoever answered triangle jumped on the first answer that you saw instead of reading all the choices. Yes, all of these pieces are important for generating student success. Every last one of them. However, we can only control certain pieces. Okay. Excellent job, folks. Looks like we've got a tight race. Question 2, in order to maximize student achievement, which of the following must be aligned? Excellent. Yes, curriculum, instruction, and assessment all must be aligned. Oh, we got some movers and shakers. Also fun to know, Kahoot also gives you points based on speed. Speed. So that's why sometimes using quizzes is a little better. It gives kids a little more think time without penalizing them quite as harshly. Question 3. You would use a YAG to, again, this is a pre-assessment, folks. If you don't know the answer, that's okay. You would use a YAG to what? Yep. We would use it to follow the scope and sequence of instruction. Well, not the scope, but the sequence of instruction for a subject. A lot of folks went with identifying overarching concepts. Um, most YAGs don't actually get into details of the concepts. They're just going to give you the standards numbers, the TEKS numbers. That's all right. We continue forward. Next question. We're halfway through. Which document shows how SEs or student expectations progress in content and rigor across grade levels? Student expectations progress in content and rigor across grade levels. Okay, good. Vertical alignment. Vertical alignment is going to do exactly that. It's going to show you the student expectations and how they develop from the earliest grade to grade 12. Right. Question 5. Which document shows if a student expectation is a direct teach or ongoing teaching piece during a 6 or 9 weeks period? Which one shows if it's direct teach or ongoing? So this is a really cool thing. Most people probably are more familiar with the term scope and sequence. TEKS resource system actually has, they call it a TEKS verification document. The instructional focus document will show some of that. The TEKS verification is just a little more streamlined and a little easier and quicker to access. We'll get to that here. And lastly, question 6, which document has the unit overview, performance, assessments, misconceptions, and vocabulary? All right, yes, the instructional focus is going to have all of those fun components in it, and you will get a deeper look at all of those. We'll talk about them a little today, but mostly on the 11th and 12th. And our winner is, third place is Stephanie, second place is T-Web, and first place with a spotlight. All right. Look at that, everybody. And your prize is that you get to continue on in today's learning. You're so lucky. So, so lucky. All right. I'm not saving those, so we're going to keep moving. Like I said, the goal for that was just kind of get our mind around some of these documents. Oh, poor Bailey. She's saying she lost her lead if you're not looking at the chat because she tried to click on the Zoom screen. Unfortunately, clicking on the wrong screen does not count to get you those points back. Better luck next time. All right, now we're going to dig in to the actual TEKS resource system and let you get a little bit of hands-on with this. The website is on the screen or on your click sheet if you just want to click on that. The question was raised earlier, hey, I can't log in. As new teachers, you may not have access yet to TEKS resource system. However, the email address there, ci@aisd.net, will work as a username, and the tcmpc will work as your password. It's a demo account. You won't be able to save anything or do anything on it long term, but it will get you into the system for what we need to do today. All right, so I'm going to give you just a little bit of time to log into TEAC's resource system. We're going to give you a chance to actually get hands-on and look at a document, and then like with our standards, you're going to have a chance to, as a breakout room, identify the most important component of that document in your group's opinion, or the most important function of that document. And then again, summarize for the group how you would use it in your classroom. So I'm going to leave that login information up for about 10 more seconds. If you are in the Canvas course, you can always click back to see this slide if I go forward and you're not ready. All right, here we go. So when accessing TEAC's resource system, there are some steps here I've tried to screenshot to help you navigate if you've never used it before. If you've used it before, this is just review, bear with us. But when you've logged in using that information, on the right side of the screen, you'll see a quick search. And you're going to select English Language Arts, obviously, and the grade level first, then English Language Arts. You can choose whatever grade level you plan to teach for this. The documents will all look the same for what we're trying to do for this activity. You're not going to do specific grade level planning right now. Okay. Once you've logged in, you're going to see something similar to what you see down there at the bottom of this slide, where it's got a bunch of different folders. You don't need to click into those folders yet. That will be part of our breakout room. Okay. Ta-da! You're going to be the expert. So your group will examine the document with the corresponding number. I am already typing this into the chat so that you can see it. Breakout 1 is going to be vertical alignment. And the only reason I'm saying this, the rooms are going to change because 5 is less than we used in the last activity. Breakout 2 is going to be the TEAC's clarification. Breakout 3 is TEAC's verification. Breakout 4, resources tab. And breakout 5, I missed something. Breakout 3 is the YAG. Why didn't you guys tell me I'm being such an idiot? YAG, group 4 is TEAC's verification. And 5, again, is the resources tab. Okay, questions about what I'm asking you to do? Not seeing anyone shaking their head, and nothing's popping up in the good old chat. So I have put the breakout room assignments in the chat, and now I am going to send you on. Again, if you're trying to log in, again, Heath, Heath, are you on the Canvas course? I can see you, so if you just want to take your videos now.
Yes.
If you click back a couple slides, the login information is there.
I was trying to find that slide. Is it under Leap Forward or the TEAC's resource system?
It'll be under TEAC's resource system. Slide 9 will be the one you're looking for. And all right, so I'm going to send you to the 5 breakout rooms. We're going to try and do it kind of quickly. I'm sorry, but I'm trying to reclaim some time and possibly release you a little early if it all works out. So I'm going to give you till 2:30. 2:30 to summarize the key function or information housed in your document. If you have questions, you can call for help and I'll come to your room and help you out.
Hello. I have a login,
Yes.
but it's not allowing me to log in. And I tried to log in the other day, and I did let my instructional person, no, but I think because I'm not a homeroom teacher, I'm just an interventionist. I didn't receive access to like teams. I did frontline and different things like that. And so she says she's working on it. But I mean, I can go to the
Okay.
email and I see my email in AISD 1234,
But
but
it's not letting you in. Okay, so that'll definitely be something the administrators will need to sort out for you. Unfortunately, I don't have access to create accounts or do much with that.
okay.
For now, that information on slide 9 in this section, are you in the Canvas course?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
I'm on.
So that information on slide 9, again, will get you in for, it'll get you in right now. And you'll have access to it if you need to get into it later. It's a demo account. You just won't be able to necessarily save anything or favorite anything. And that'll at least give you access while your campus is sorting out whatever's happening with your account.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Okay, so how can I now go back to my breakout room since I
Okay.
clicked later?
I'm gonna. I'm gonna move you to another room and then kick you back into the room you're supposed to be in.
Okay,
Okay. I think I can do that.
I'm ready.
Move to 3. Are you seeing it? Did it not pop up? Oh no. I don't know how to push you into that room. Here.
I'm teaching you something new.
Well, we tried to do a dry run at this yesterday, as I mentioned earlier, and unfortunately, there's just things that you can't practice without a room full of people.
Right.
I'm gonna try sending you. See if I can. I don't know if it'll let me. I don't know how to force you into a room. I'm gonna put you in the waiting room and then pull you back out and see if it'll let me resend your thing. So just sit tight.
Okay.
That did not work. I was hoping you'd let me resend the invitation to you.
What if I leave and come back? As if I'm just joining late.
I think that's probably the best way to do it. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem.
All right. I'm going to now try to assign you to a room and hopefully you will go.
All right.
Did you get it? Okay, great. All right, welcome back. So we're gonna have fun. I'm going to, we're gonna kick through this again, same as before, spokesperson just kind of giving us what are the kind of the quick hits that you feel are most important to know about each of these documents. So we're gonna start with the vertical alignment.
So we talked about the vertical alignment document being telling us kind of where the kids came from, what they should have learned the year before they come to us, and then what we should be teaching them to get them ready for the following year, because we can also see what they're going to learn that year as well, or add on to from their knowledge. And then it also helped us kind of give us kind of some specifics for the career and college readiness as well.
Absolutely. Great, thank you guys. And as you can see, this is a picture of it if you didn't get to see it because you weren't in that group. It's seriously columns by grade. It'll give you the kind of the strand up here at the top, and then it's going to give you the specific standards. And they have a specificity in notes that actually links out to a different location that we may talk about here in a minute. TEKS clarification. That would have been room 2, I believe. Anybody?
So we spent a lot of the time trying to figure out how to get into it.
Oh no, sorry about that.
A couple of us had used it before, and so if we are remembering correctly, it's like the things that you need to know going into it, like the background knowledge that students need, and just breaking down what some of those more difficult terms are.
Yes, yeah, basically in this TEKS clarification, it's going to clarify the TEK. And so as right there on the slide, you can see it's going to kind of go through, tell you the standard. It's going to tell you some different ways you would go about executing that standard. And then like she was saying, there's vocabulary down here also to help clarify this is what we mean when we say stage directions. We're talking about descriptions or instructions. In TEKS resource system, they also have some grade level notes down at the bottom to help you do some quick reference pieces. Great, thank you guys. Year at a glance, room 3.
We had a year at a glance, and it basically breaks down or gives you an overview of the whole year, and it breaks down each 6 weeks by unit, and then within those 6 weeks, within those units, it tells you the TEKS that you're going to be focusing on, and also gives you a duration that you're going to be focusing on those units and TEKS.
Yes. Yes, thank you guys. That's exactly right. I will tell you in Arlington, one of the things we're looking at is those days are great, but we also know that sometimes we need a day less or a day more, or we have to make some concessions based on our testing calendar and some other things. So yes, that, Unit 2A may take 20 days, but we know that it may actually be 18 because we're going to have a curriculum assessment at the end of it, or things like that. So keep in mind those are recommended days, but yeah, all the standards are there, and you'll notice some recur throughout the year. Those are standards that we're going to build on. Excellent, thank you, Group 3. Group 4, TEKS verification.
Yeah, luckily we had one person that could show us their screen.
Okay.
It's nice and neat. But basically, it's just a checklist to make sure you're following all the appropriate TEKS, and it's broken down by 6 weeks. And I think it's a great reference with your lesson planning, making sure you're not leaving anything out. And then we found some things are direct teach, and some things just are taught as you go along. So.
Right. And I think that last piece is something really important to know. Okay, so this is the 6 weeks that I'm really giving that foundational piece I need. And then in later 6 weeks, we're going to manipulate it and get a little deeper into what that really is about, it's a useful document, especially if you're trying to figure out how to pace yourself teaching through. And in IFD, you'll notice it'll speak to this some as well. And our last one, the resources tab, which you may not have had time to do a ton of work on it, but just from what you were able to see.
I'll go. Okay, resources, we found a lot of great stuff. First of all, there's a really over view of the COVID-19 expectation. There are lots of great STAR resources, writing prompts, that sort of thing, some great rubrics. It also had the TBD categories that taught, developing, ongoing, and then there was a wonderful concept chart that gave a really clear overarching concepts of all the TEKs. So some great stuff in there. We didn't have long to dig around, but it was good. Yes,
there's a lot in there, and that's something worth clicking around in later when you do have time. I do want to say, as we talk about that, it's right here at the top, the ELAR COVID-19 gap statement. It's a really cool tool, but something to keep in mind as you reference that is Arlington did not use TEKS resource system last year. So while that COVID-19 gap statement is useful, just remember that your students coming to you were not in TEKS resource system last year. And so the YAG and material that they worked through will differ some. I actually feel pretty good about where our students are, the way our YAG set up last year. Most of our base curriculum and base standards were taught prior to school closure. We were entering into a portion of curriculum that was largely review as preparation for STAR. But that doesn't mean there still won't be some gaps. So just keep that in mind as you look through that gap statement. Talk to the other teachers that you're working with, the returning teachers, and you can figure out how to use that gap statement to still bridge things, even though it won't match up one-to-one with what the kids learn. Great work from everybody. It's a crash course. You're going to have a lot of time to get more familiar with this platform. But we wanted to give you at least a little bit to see the kind of some of the key components. There's other things in here like the assessment creator is a really great way to create some quick multiple, well, it doesn't have to be multiple choice, but some quick assessments that are aligned to the units in TRS. And just some other components we don't have time to get into today. The instructional focus document I want to hit on very quickly. This is a very beefy document. If you are not familiar with TRS, there's a lot in there. The IFDs we created from our department in years past were about 10 pages, and then we had a couple of supplemental documents that added another 8 to 10 pages, so 20 pages total. This IFD combines all of those together with performance assessments for Deering unit and some other components. They run about 80 to 100 pages a piece. It seems like a whole lot until you learn how to use it, which we're going to spend more time in the IFD later at our district-wide day. But I do recommend kind of looking through that IFD to see what's there. Part of the problem is it's printed landscape, so that is going to require more pages. But there's just a lot of information. It combines, like you said, it's going to have some of that TEKS verification piece is going to be built into the IFD. So that's a lot of information. Question, are there lessons provided that we use to teach? Not direct lessons, no. Your teams will develop the actual lessons you teach to the kids. The TEKS resource system helps to kind of, what are we going to center those lessons around? The performance assessments, some of them are meant to be used while you're teaching through a unit, and some of them are meant to be taught like after we've taught the base concepts, then we would have the kids do the performance assessment. We will also provide, you'll see here in a minute, a recommended learning progression is provided from the curriculum instruction department. And that kind of gives here's one possible order you can teach the standards in. So there's a lot of pieces we can do with that. And we'll hopefully have time to give you some more specificity as we go to help you feel comfortable with these resources. That's a lot. There's a lot in a very big platform that you didn't have much time to digest, unfortunately, but we wanted to at least give you a feet first plunge into it. I wanted to give you a chance very quickly, just a minute or two, thinking about how you feel and the different emojis that are here on the screen. Is there something that you're feeling right now, or a question you have, or a statement of frustration maybe that you feel compelled to share right now? Because I want to give you a space to ask, share something that we can address now in real time, as opposed to just waiting for a response here.
You faded out. Could you repeat what you said?
Sorry. I just said, thinking about these emojis and how you may be feeling with all of that information, that you got a lot of information like drinking from a fire hose in a very short period of time. Do you have questions or statements of joy or frustration, either way, that you would like to express now and get instant feedback on, as opposed to waiting until some mysterious time in the future when we can email each other and get back?
So I would like to say right now, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed because it's a lot of resources that we're expected to learn and interject at the same time. So I'm new to teaching, not new to being in education, because I've been with Arlington, but this is going into my 30th year.
Okay.
But it will be my first year in the classroom. So I'm wondering, where exactly do I start? Do I start looking at the Curriculum Central stuff and start there? Or, what is the first thing that I'm going to do? Who's going to show me what's the first thing to do to set up for my online classroom?
That's a great question. So I think there's unfortunately multiple pieces of that as well. One, I would rely heavily on your team of teachers who not only have been doing this for a bit, but they've also been at your campus. And so they kind of know what your administrators are going to want. As far as the material goes, there's a couple of places I would, the TEKS, the state standards and TEKS resource system are kind of the foundation, okay? Right. You have to know what you're teaching.
Right.
And so using that YAG, so we're going to start off, the first unit is a lot about reading comprehension and thinking processes. So, okay, what do those performance assessments look like? How are they asking us to kind of gauge that with kids? Okay, now with my team, I'm going to develop the lesson. That's where our PLCs come in. We can develop that together. What specific resources do we want to use? Well, now we can branch out further. Curriculum Central houses some specific resources we're going to look at a little bit, as well as the HMH resource. That's our textbook, which thankfully has an online component. There's some text you can pull from without having to search the internet for something. Mm-hmm. And so I would start with the content, like what do the kids need to be able to do? And that's our ground zero, and we'll build from there.
Okay.
How do I need them to understand that ground zero? Well, I'm going to need a text. So what text best fits? Okay, great. And then you're going to move out from there.
Okay.
Let's see, that was for the first 30 days of yes, that's a possibility. It was put in the chat about the first 30 days of ELA instruction. That's a possibility. There's lots of different pieces, and I would definitely pull from people who have done this and have been doing this. It can help bridge that gap. I know when I first got into teaching, I'm from alternative certification. And when I first moved into education, my team was huge in getting me up and running. So it's a big thing. Questions in the chat. When will we have access to HMH other than the demo? So HMH is roster based. So ideally within 24 hours of your campus giving you a classroom roster in Teams, you should be able to access, go to access HMH. That's what we have been told from HMH and the technology side. Unfortunately, I can't create accounts or do any work with that. If you were continuing to have issues, I would contact your administrators on campus, file a help ticket with technology, or reach out to HMH directly about the issue there. Appreciate breaking down the resources because we use TRS, but no one really knew what we were doing. Yes, your campuses will actually have a capacity team, okay? On each campus, a TRS capacity team, and their job is to be familiar with TRS and help you as the teachers to better use it. And so that team is made up of teachers from all content areas on your campus. So if you're looking for just TRS specific help, your capacity team on your campus will be a huge resource, and your administrators can point you to the teachers that are part of that. It seems like we have a lot of flexibility of what materials we can use. Teachers pay teachers. I have a love-hate relationship with teachers pay teachers. I'm going to encourage you to look at some of the resources we're going to show you on Curriculum Central here in a minute. And I'm going to encourage you to lean on your teacher team. Sometimes your team may create things together that you want to use. I'm not going to tell you you can't use teachers pay teachers. You won't see any of that material posted from the district because you're paying to use it with just your students. And so we don't have permission to get that and then give it to you. And anything you use off teachers pay teachers, I would make sure they're aligned to our standards. Some of those are Common Core based standards, or they're just a really fun activity the teachers made that doesn't really fit in with the standards. So just feel, as you're going through that, vet anything you get from teachers pay teachers. As a sixth grade teacher, what would these PLCs plan look like? Okay, so that is one thing to be aware of. Sixth grade teachers, you may be the only ELAR teacher on your campus or in your team on your campus. That is something where I would either encourage you to network with teachers at other campuses or reach out to me, and we can find, if we can find a time to plan together, or you can plan with your coach on campus, say, hey, I would like to have someone to partner with for this planning. We can definitely find you someone to team with to make that happen. No one should be on an island when planning. That is for sure. Hope that answers your question, Ms. Bailey. Good stuff, good stuff. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to press on. If you have any further questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or write them down. You can either catch me after the session ends or email me. But hopefully maybe some stuff we're doing will answer some of these questions further. All right, next steps. Again, we're gonna take a closer look at the IFD at our district-wide sessions. That'll be August 11th for 6th grade and the 12th for 7th and 8th grades. You should have also been given information to register for those sessions in Strive. So keep up, make sure you've registered for those as well. Your campus capacity teams, like I said, their sole job is to assist you as needed with specific TRS issues. So reach out to them. And lastly, curriculum and instruction specialists. My job is to help you whenever I can, excuse me. So I want you to contact me if you have any issues. 6th grade, you can also reach out as needed to, like I said, Nikki Walls, Sandra Redding, or we're actually in the process of hiring a 3rd elementary specialist. So all of our contact information can be found on the AISD website and the curriculum and instruction page if you need that. And here, I'll give out my email here at the end of the session for anybody who needs. And I use Slide Carnival. In case you're wanting fun slides, Slide Carnival has fun slides. All right. Lead Forward. I'm going to rip through Lead Forward really quickly. It is a really great resource. Unfortunately, time is not on our side this afternoon, and I was hoping to already have you to your break. So I'm going to do Lead Forward, and then we're going to take a quick 5-minute break and then come back and finish out the session. So if you've never used, oh no, I messed up. Go back. If you've never used Lead Forward is a third-party website that provides resources to teachers to help you know the standards, know what you need to do. And I love it. I really do love it. So we're going to look a little at some of their resources kind of quickly. There are a lot of tools beyond what you see on the screen here. These are just a few, and the ones that I'm going to highlight today. If you need help around the standards, understanding them or digging deeper into them, or sometimes we have so many standards, we need to know which one should be a priority. There are some tools on Lead Forward that can help you identify which standards carry, like you said, all standards need to be taught. But some standards do have a little more weight to them. And so this kind of helps you identify those, what has the state prioritized in the pass on testing and things like that. So when accessing Lead Forward, I gave you a link on the click sheet. If you want to go view that page, it's leadforward.com. with that clever 4 instead of the letters FOR. A lot of the things I focus on and we'll focus on right now are on the resources tab. And when you pull up the resources tab, you'll see an image like that bottom image on the slide. If you want to make them full screen, you'll see it a little better. Or if you go to the lead forward page, it'll be full size. So you can see it there. The first thing I want to point out to you is the IQ tool. The IQ tool is basically a database of all STAR released questions going back to 2013. And you can sort it by standard or genre. And so it's a really great tool. Another reason I like this tool, not just for testing purposes, but seeing how they've been tested, what kinds of questions are the state asking. And something we hear a lot from teachers is, I don't know what questions to ask about a specific skill. Well, I highly recommend scripting questions out. Just a side note, when you're lesson planning, have the questions you want to ask in advance, know what answers you're looking for. And a tool that can help you do that is this IQ tool, because as you go in, it allows you to select your grade level and content, and then it allows you to pick by genre if you want, or you can pick by standard, and then inside of the genre you can pick standards again, and it can narrow down that list to what you want to see. And this is basically kind of what it looks like. When you finish narrowing down the fields of your search, it's going to create a giant list that has not only what you see here, a question stem, but it's also going to have the passage that you can look at, see what passage was associated with each one. And then in this box, this is one possible question from a context clue. 7.2b use context, such as context or cause, or such as contrast, excuse me, or cause and effect to clarify the meaning of words. That's the new standard. It's also going to give you the old standards if you've been teaching a while and are still acclimating to the new standards, the old ones listed. It gives you the year of the test, the question number on the test, and the passage number. So this question is from 2018, the first passage on the reading test, and the first question of the entire test. The word illustrious in paragraph 2 means the answer choices, and then over here on the side, it actually gives you the answers. The asterisk one is the correct answer, and the percentage the state chose each of them. Which can be helpful because if you're looking at it and say, hey, I'm looking at this, I noticed 40% of the state chose B. You can go in and really look at why do you think 40% chose B, even if it's the wrong answer. So I really love this tool. I could talk about it all day, but I'm going to stop myself for your sake and move on. They also have a tool called the frequency distribution chart. And this is another tool that basically lets you see how often each standard has been tested on STAR. This comes in handy when, again, I'm working through a unit and I've got all of these standards on the YAG, but which ones are really the key standards I need to focus on, especially in light of the fact that the state has not identified readiness and supporting standards yet with the new standards. You can come here and see the frequency. If a standard is tested a lot, that's your cue that it's an important standard and you need to make sure you've covered it. So when you click on those, they have reading and writing. You can pull it up by TEKS cluster, which is going to break it down by genre. You can also do just by standard in general. So it looks like this. This is just the general frequency distribution by student expectation. Excuse me. And so it goes down the list. You have the standard. It also gives you the previous standards. And then it's an item count by year. So you'll notice that 7.2b has been tested a lot early on in 2012 and 2013. And then in the last few years, it's become less frequent. And they've actually moved to really about one question a year on STAR, looking at that context clue question type. Okay, so that's kind of what you get with the frequency distribution. Again, it's a helpful tool to kind of know which things tend to be the state's bread and butter, if you will, on the test. The side-by-side. This TEKS side-by-side, again, this is a useful tool if you're trying to see how the old standards and the new standards work together. This is a really helpful tool. I will tell you right now, TEA has their own side-by-side document on the TEA website. If you go there and you search or Google TEA, TEACS, ELAR, TEACS side-by-side, you can usually get to the right page. I think if you're trying to go by the letter of the law, you go with the one from TEA. This one from Lead Forward is really close to TEA's. I think it's easier to read. And so that's where this tool could come in handy, is it's a little easier to consult. It's actually under the Instructional Tools tab under Resources. And then side-by-sides are down here. I have them boxed. And it looks like this. It's going to have a column here. That's a change. If it's a new standard, is it from another grade, things like that. The new expectation, the old expectation, it's going to have a cognitive change. So those verbs, this is a good example. It talks about describing, explaining, things like that. And then it'll have content change. What kind of nitty-gritty content is different from previous years. So that's a good tool to see how the standards are evolving. I also put kind of the key there for that left-hand column. If it's a standard that moves from another grade, is it deleted or is it totally new to this set? The TEAC snapshot is another tool that is really just going to give you a bird's eye view of all the standards. And I know my screen grab there is, you probably can't read it because there's so much text. But basically, this is going to break down the standards by genre, by category, and really help you see how all the standards work together. So going back to the question that was asked earlier, where to start, this might be a tool that you download and save to your desktop, just as a quick reference for standards and how they fit together. And lastly, the learning videos. I personally haven't spent a lot of time in the learning videos, but basically they're going to talk about accessing and using all of these different resources that Lead Forward provides. And so that's just a helpful look on the far right of the learning videos. I ripped through that in an incredible pace and probably spoke faster than was helpful, but like I said, I want to be respectful of your time and move on to some other things that I do need to make sure you hear today. So just kind of thinking about that, I'm not going to stop and do the sharing out just for time's sake, but I do want you to think about how these tools can benefit you on a daily basis. Where would they sit in your planning process, in your prepping for your kids? What would you use these for? And then as always, if you have questions about any of these tools, please feel free to put them in the chat or hold on to them for in a little bit, and I'll do my best. All right. Now, I want you to take a quick break. I know I've been talking a lot. We've been moving really fast, and there's still some more content we have to cover. So I'm going to have you take a quick 5-minute break. I'm showing 2:59. At 3:05, I'm going to get going. So I need you to please be back here at 3:05, and we will sprint to the finish. All right. I'm going to stick around for any questions you may have. If you don't want to take advantage of that break, I'm happy to stay and assist in any way I can. But you have till 3:05. All right, we're gonna, excuse me, get going here real quick. I'm noticing a lot showing up in the chat, so I'm gonna go back and kind of review, make sure there's not something here that we need to see. I am not familiar with Forethought, Ms. Deerfoot, but it's something I'm happy to look into. A central planning platform with our plans. That is a great question. We don't have a central planning platform per se. A lot of that is left to the campus and their preferences on how they want their teachers to submit lesson plans. We are going to show you on the 11th or 12th, depending on which grade level you are, a lesson planning template that Curriculum and Instruction has developed to go along with the TRS instructional focus document. And if you choose to use that lesson planning template, that could be kind of a uniform place, but we don't have a, I started teaching in a district that also had a lesson planning platform. And so that was a big change for me coming to Arlington, adapting to a new structure. Lead 4 does have an app for your phone if you prefer to look at it in that format. Always recommend new teachers to start teaching new grade level take the STAR test. Yes, I know it's everyone's favorite way to spend an hour or so, but it's good to take the STAR test if you are teaching a new grade level or new to teaching, to really get your mind around this is what they're asking them to know. I also tend to tell people, though, that just because that's how it's tested doesn't mean we can't teach beyond it. That's just, remember that the STAR test is testing that they caught the base level they need to move on to the next grade. And I always tried to pride myself on teaching my kids more than what they needed to pass the STAR. If you've prepped them for more difficult things, the STAR is that much easier. And I don't like teaching to a test personally, so something to keep in mind there. But taking the STAR test is a great way to see this is, I've at least got to get to this point with my kids. Absolutely.
So would that be taking the STAR test while the kids are taking it?
Oh, no, you can't take that test.
Okay,
You
so
can't
it's
take
one
that
for
one.
an adult.
On TEA's, yes, clarifying for that. On TEA's website, they have released STAR tests that you can go download the PDFs for. I will tell you this, just you'll hear it again from me at district-wide, but just tell you again, we use the released STAR tests for assessments that we generate as a district. So we do unit summative assessments, and we do curriculum assessments that happen, the curriculum assessments happen twice and then a benchmark. So before you use any STAR release passages with your kids in class, you're going to want to reference the unit summative assessments, which will show up here shortly. And I would also recommend, actually this year moving to TRS, I would recommend trying to maybe stay out of the release STAR passages until second semester. TRS has STAR formatted passages in their assessment creator that you can use. And so I might try to steer you towards that or HMH before you use STAR resources, because we, like I said, we do use those on the curriculum assessments. And if you decide, oh, I'm going to teach this passage, but it's actually going to show up on the CA in a month, that data is now not good because your kids have already worked through that passage and it's supposed to be a cold read.
Right. And that
that's just something to keep in mind and talk to your team with as you start planning assessments, because like I said, we do utilize the STAR release, but that doesn't mean you can't take the release test yourself. Absolutely. And then definitely stay out of the 2019 test. There's a good chance that will be our benchmark in the spring, and we don't want anyone to have taken it. It's basically the first time the kids will get to take a STAR test from start to finish. And so we don't want them having read anything from that test. Otherwise, we won't know how much they've really learned in the first part of the year. Good things from everybody, good things. Great stuff, everybody. Now, Curriculum Central. Curriculum Central is the district-provided platform of in-house created materials. Most of what you will see there is either created or revised by me, our other specialists, or specialists who preceded us. And it's material that we've created to supplement what you'll find in TRS. There's a lot of good stuff in TEAC's resource system that can help fill in the gaps that you may not see in the TRS instructional focus documents. Melanie, I see your question. I'm going to circle to it here in a little bit, so don't think I forgot you. So, Curriculum Central, what you'll find there, we are providing recommended learning progressions, companion documents to the ISD, as well as other unit resources. In addition to those, we also, that is where we place some planning documents, and our unit summative assessments will live there. And as we get closer to STAR, we will provide some STAR resources. So we're going to see how much we can cover. There is a link to Curriculum Central on your click sheet. However, if your district credentials are not up and running, you will not be able to log in. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to click through my slides, and then depending on how I feel when we get to the end, I may try to go to the website and show you what it looks like. Oh, I'm not sharing. That's the worst. Thank you. And that'll be in the recording for everyone who watches this later to see. I appreciate you guys having my back. Tiffany, you get 1,000 gold stars. Now, so depending on how I feel on time, when we get to the end, I may try to click through Curriculum Central, but if not, the screen grabs just have to do. Again, your credentials will work there as soon as they're up and running. So to access Curriculum Central, you go to aisd.net/curriculum-central, and you just use the same login information you use to log into your email. Once inside, you will have several clicks to get where you need to be. So it's going to differ a little bit. 6th grade, I apologize, a couple of your click buttons are in a different order, but it's the same number of clicks, the same ultimate process to get there. So basically what we do is you select your grade brand, elementary or secondary, and you click on what you want. So I'm going secondary, obviously elementary. 6th grade teachers, you're in elementary. But I only had so much room for screen grabs, so we went with secondary for this one. You're going to select your content, English language arts. It's the same for elementary. It'll say English language arts. I skipped a step. You have to click core curriculum or core content. There's going to be a lot of other tabs for you to look at to get to the material I am talking about and I'm curating for you. You have to click core curriculum. Then English language arts, and then your grade level. So I believe 6th grade teachers, this may not be exactly correct. I believe you actually select your grade level and then your content for 6th grade. So just the 2 steps on this slide are reversed for 6th grade. Once you get to your grade level page, there's a lot of stuff for you to look at and see. I'm going to talk about them kind of quickly. The first thing you'll see at the top is we've added a link to TEKS resources. You can get to it from Curriculum Central. Honestly, I have both things bookmarked at the top of my screen, as you can see right here. I have all of the things I'm talking to you today about just bookmarked so I can get to them whenever I need to. The first thing you'll see as far as actual material goes is there's a section called Planning Resources. This is where we've got something, a delivery of focused lesson options, just talks about the gradual release method and some basic things there. There is, I think all grade levels have an open-ended questions document that will be updated in the next few weeks to reflect the new standards. It still has old standards, but that will be updated soon. It's just basically a compilation of all the question stems, not specific question choices like lead forward. And then the other document, the PDF there, the approved genre selection. This is an important document because it's going to tell you these are the texts that we have for you to use that have been, they are approved. They're go for you to use in your classroom. Obviously the HMH adopted textbook is listed, but there are also some, assuming we get to go back and use novels that are on your campuses. It has the novel titles that have been selected and that are available on your campus. It also has a couple of other resources accessible through the library services page and some things like that. So the approved genre selection is a good place to go. There's also an assessments tab. The assessments tab is broken down by which test you're looking at. The benchmarking curriculum assessments are at the top. Those will house some data material for your data digs after the test has been taken. The other unit folders will actually house the unit summative assessment for each unit. That's a test that I have compiled from against our release passages. Some of the questions are pulled straight from the start, and some of them I've rewritten or created myself to make sure we're getting to the standards asked for in the IFT. And I can show you that here in a little bit if time permits. But basically, you would go there to access those tests. The keys, however, are not there. They are loaded into a system called Polaris, which I don't know if any of you have used or are familiar with, and we don't have time to cover Polaris today. That's a rabbit hole for another time. But the keys are housed in Polaris, so you'll actually have to enter the kids' tests into Polaris to score them. That's something your campus testing coordinators should be working on right now. And if not, email me. We'll get it figured out. Below that, you'll see unit resources. So each unit has a folder. So, and it's listed right there with the unit number of the TRS unit. So unit 01 is our first out of the gate. Literacy Essentials is what it's called in 7th grade. If you open that folder, it will come down here and you'll see another folder and 2 files. The first file will be the companion document, which I want to open and show you here in just a second. Also a learning progression. If you open the unit resources folder, that takes you to the actual resources that we've kind of provided to help, like I said, fill in the gaps of your teaching. These are recommended resources. They are not required, so your team can develop your own material. But I think it's also nice to have a place to start. And I want to very quickly show you Curriculum Central because I want to show you these documents. You will get a closer look at them at the district-wide day, and hopefully your teams are going to plan with them. Actually, I'm going to do this for 6th grade because 6th grade's getting the shaft today. We're going to go to elementary and show you guys. So it's elementary, core curriculum, grade level, and then you'll pick your subject matter. It's reversed from the secondary. So this is what it looks like. There's more material in 6th grade just because there's a little more focus. You also notice some of our like balanced literacy, some of our bilingual resources that are in here. Assessments, and here, boom. This is what I want you to see. When we go into a unit folder, you will have some pieces here. Secondary, you do not have the SLAR, Spanish Language Arts and Reading components. That's an elementary piece. 7th and 8th grade will not have those, so it'll be a little easier to navigate. This is the learning progression. So this will be, basically we've taken the standards for the unit and we've given you learning targets. And this is just one recommended progression to work through those standards and how you can structure your teaching over the course of the 15-day unit. You'll notice in all 3 grades, you'll have a reading workshop component and a writing workshop component for those units. The units were made partly from a logical mindset of how to work through it, but also taking into account what you're being asked to do in the performance assessments. Generally, you would complete these in the order to go through the performance assessments if you were using those as part of your planning. The other big piece in here is the companion document. The companion document will house links, direct links to everything in Curriculum Central. So you don't have a USA for the first unit, but if I click this progression link, guess what? It's going to open up that document we were just looking at. So if you keep that in mind, if you save the companion document, the links will take you directly to those things. Where that comes in handy are these resources, the suggested instructional materials. On Curriculum Central, it is just a big folder full of links, but I don't really know what any of these things are, right? From the companion document, there's a statement that gives a little bit of context, not a lot, but a little bit of context. So if I wanted to see the ask and answer questions chart, this is actually an HMH resource that we downloaded for you. Basically, it's going to open. And so this is available to you. Some things we're going to talk about later on. A lot of these are still kind of print materials, which makes the virtual learning a little difficult, but I can definitely take this print material and find a way to adapt it to Canvas and to reformat it. So that's something we'll talk more about at district-wide. But I wanted to show you these, and there's reading components. There's also interventions and extensions, and a guide to our language acquisition pieces from our World Languages Department have created a guide for teachers there. So, back to what I want, Canvas, thank you. So again, that's a crash course, a very quick piece through Curriculum Central. I know it's probably not enough time, but I've still got 2 other components I have to walk you through that you have to see. So I want you to be thinking, how does that complement TRS? This is not meant to replace TEKS resource system. It's meant to help bridge any gaps between that and your classroom. All right. Our next couple pieces are pieces that I have to make sure we've covered, but I do want you to know that they are not necessarily the most engaging pieces, but there's stuff that we need you to know. So I'm going to try and get through them quickly and then leave us some time at the end to talk about any other questions you may have. So this is for our special population, specifically our SPED department and our English language learners. So confidentiality is the first piece. You need to remember that it's the law. The information you receive about your students are not meant to be shared with anyone outside of your students and their parents and other administrators at your campus that have access to that. And so whether it is an IEP document with some special education pieces, a 504 document, or any of their language pieces, that is not for everyone. Solely online. We're going to be online. So we're working on right now the unit. Okay, I'm going to backtrack for a minute. Melanie, actually, I'll get to your question at the end. I want to keep going to make sure we cover these pieces. I'll come back to those two questions. I apologize. Another reason for confidentiality, we want to support the dignity and respect our students. A lot of them don't want the world to know about the different pieces that are going on in their educational world. And so we want to make sure we keep those private. And then the accommodations you see in those pieces are for all settings. We need to find a way to make those happen as best as possible. Yes, that's going to be a challenge in virtual learning environment. We still have to figure out how we can make it happen. All right, collaboration is key, both regularly between you, the SPED department, and other teachers, and you and the student, and figure out what works best for the student. IEP meetings and decisions are going to be made. They're law. You cannot avoid those. If the IEP meeting decides that the student needs a highlighted copy of a document where you've highlighted all the important information, guess what? You have to have that available for that student. If the student doesn't use it once it's been provided, that's another issue. And that's when we bring in our special education coordinators and the parents and we talk about that, but it has to be available because that IEP is binding in its law. You may at some point have a co-teacher, and that will take some weight off of you. That co-teacher is going to help you supplement and do the things that need to be done for those students with accommodations. I've worked with co-teachers a couple of times. It can be a really rewarding experience as long as you are able to work collaboratively. I've also seen it where there's a power struggle between the teacher and that doesn't work. You've got to work together. Collaboration, again, is key. So when obviously you're not necessarily on campus right now, but things you want to know, your department leader and you want to know your students' case managers. They'll have a specific special education teacher on campus that is supervising that student. And so you will need to know them, know the special education department head and the managers so that you can, one, get help when you need it, but two, know who you're supposed to be collaborating with. You will need to make sure you've read the IEPs. Those will be provided by the SPED department. You need to make sure you read through them to know what's needed. You're gonna have to sign to show that you got it. And once you've signed and turned that in, you are legally responsible for following it. And then you're gonna need to know how to access, again, those leaders for support. And that should be information that your campus gives you when you return next week, if they haven't already. Again, confidentiality. We talked about that a minute ago. Be aware of what you share in and out of the building. I know sometimes when we get home, it's really easy to say, oh, today I was working with this kid and they just don't get it. And then you just start going, well, even though that's not likely to get back to campus, you did sign that this would be something that's confidential. So please try to keep that confidential. It's okay to talk generally about things at home, but let's try not to get too specific. Again, that's just, well, frankly, it's the law. We're bound by FERPA, Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, that information is between just the students, the parents, and the teachers. All right, examples of confidentiality breaches are here. I'm not going to read through this whole thing. You have access to this Canvas course, and so I'm going to encourage you to make sure you've come back and seen it. Again, the Zoom ones are some virtual things to keep in mind, not recording Zoom meetings, which is hard because we want to record them so we can go back and reference things, but don't. And if for some reason your campus does say, yes, you can record those Zoom meetings, you need to make sure that those are held confidential and not posted anywhere. If you break them up, don't place students with IEPs in the same group. You don't want there to be one group that is the SPED group. We want to try and let them be in the least restrictive environment, and so on. So please make sure you've referenced these and are aware. Considerations. Regular collaboration is key. Though it's easy to forget things like these IEPs if we're not regularly in them and regularly working with the student and other teachers to make sure they're happening. We've talked about how they're legally binding. Best practice indicates that all teachers are collaborating to do this. The students will have goals. You need to be aware of those goals and do everything you can to help put them in a position to achieve them. You're not achieving them for the student, but you're trying to put them in a position to do it. Decisions made in those IEP meetings, again, are legally binding. I know you're probably sensing a theme here. Again, they opt for co-teachers in special education as opposed to having a special education class because we're trying to have students be in, again, the least restrictive environment. And you would collaborate with that co-teacher as you would a PLC. Sometimes your co-teachers will attend your PLCs with everyone so they know what's going on. When I taught at Nichols, we had an 8th grade ELAR co-teach. And so she was in all of our PLCs and she did it for every teacher. So it was really easy. This is kind of summarizing the things we already read on another slide. These students do fall under the SPED umbrella. And so we want to make sure we're aware of those specific requirements. The department leader that oversees all of the special education material is someone who you need to be in contact with regularly and just making sure that you're not missing something. And then the case manager should be contacting you about the progress of your students, but also feel free to contact them. Because what may be happening, an issue you may be facing, maybe something that's happening in other teachers' classrooms of other subjects, and that case manager can help consolidate that. I'm seeing a question, I've heard other teachers say they record their Zooms with their class. Technically, for student privacy, you're gonna see things like this that say don't. I know a lot of teachers do record the Zoom. If you record the Zoom, I would have it somewhere safe. I would not have it posted. I would not have it in something that can easily be hacked. I would try to save it on something secure. And I would ask your administrators on your campus's stance on recording Zooms before you do that. There is a setting in Zoom that you can actually, I believe, set to not allow recording. Now, if your kids do any kind of screen grabbing software, I don't know how we stop that, but in the Zoom call, I believe you can set it so only the host can record. But again, that's a question you're going to want to clear up with your campus administrators on their stance on recording. Good question. Daily expectations. We saw this with our TEKS, listening, speaking, reading, writing. Every day, we want to have those. For our English language learners, we're transitioning away from SPED here. We want to make sure we're doing all those pieces. It helps reinforce the language. Use as many visuals as possible, which is something that technology department is trying to provide us with a great list of approved resources. It's on through the district website. There's an approved web apps list, and some of those are things like Canva, where I can create an infographic or other visual that will help support not just my ELs, but all of my students with some visuals to encapsulate learning. So encourage you to do that whenever possible. Have your students speak. Use something like Flipgrid. Flipgrid's great because you can have your students verbally respond. You can also have them do a video response through Canvas. Either way, but the great thing about that is you can set it so that it's not public, where you're the only one viewing those pieces. A lot of our ELs are very self-conscious. They don't like what they sound like when they speak English. And so they're in the traditional classroom, they're not speaking up. They're going to hide. In the virtual, I think the virtual classroom gives us an opportunity to have them speak and practice that. Question was about, I'm told that you don't need parental consent for Flipgrid in Arlington. I believe so. What our technology and legal departments do is, in order for an app to be approved, they go through and make sure that it's not going to violate any type of confidentiality or student rights by you using an app. And I believe Flipgrid is on our approved web apps, so you should be fine. Something that you can always do at the beginning of the year, it doesn't hurt to send home a parent letter that has, or virtually send out a parent letter through Teams that has a list of the web apps you plan to use, and just let your teachers know or your parents know up front, I plan to use Flipgrid, we will be in Canvas, and things like that. If you have pushback and they don't want Flipgrid, again, you can have them record a video response through Canvas, which achieves the same goal. Yeah, basically that's how it works, is they agree to the recording when they agree to the app terms. So, which is again another reason why I would think about sending home that parent letter that just says, hey, these are some things, some tools we're going to use. If you object to them, you need to let me know. Otherwise, the students will be expected to participate. I love good questions. Require students to speak. We talked about that. Sentence stems is another good piece. Provide sentence stems whenever possible to give them the leg up. That way they're only really having to fill in the critical content you're assessing for. They're not having to come up with all of the other sentence structures, but they're still getting practice in saying what needs to be said. Daily expectations. Make sure they know what's needed. A lot of our teachers use posters like this. Obviously in a virtual setting, you'll have to figure out how to provide that to them a little differently, but basically it gives them some sentence stems for responding to common questions like, I don't know, what do they need to say to you when they don't know? Here are some things they can use. So give them tools, and if you need some resources, World Languages is a great department. They've got a ton of them that can help you out with that. Daily expectations. Continued, again, give them opportunities to speak, if not to the class as a whole, but in pairs. Again, they're self-conscious. They may be more comfortable talking to their partner in a breakout room or small group than having to talk with everyone. And make sure that that's rotating, so they're all talking to everyone, not just the same kids, and the same one or two are responding every time. Again, another module we ripped through, this is available to you, you can refer back to. I'm going to give about 30 seconds. Are there any questions around SPED or ELs that we can answer right now? And just either speak out or throw it in the chat, either way if you do. Okay, I'm gonna keep moving for time. Again, throw it in. I'm gonna go back through the chat here when we finish and make sure I've covered everyone. Okay. Library services. So we wanted to give you some insight into the library resources, given the fact that we are virtual and you may need your kids to access some books and they may not have them. So library services has some digital resources that are available to you. Our coworker Chris thought this was a clever slide. I'm a strawberry library. It's a raspberry, not a strawberry. Get it? It's a lying berry. We like puns. Moving forward. Ebook resources. Now, library resources. To access the library, if you haven't seen it already, you will go to destiny.aisd.net. You're going to select your campus. I mean, you can pick any campus you want, but your campus you'll have some more access with. And ebooks has a rectangle on the top left of that page. And I kind of want to see, you actually have on your click sheet a link to the AISD intranet, and I believe there's a library services place you can click on that. Get the one I'm talking about if you want to do it on your own screen. I'm in the process of opening it myself. Oh, they sent you to the wrong link. Well, I don't like where they sent you on this, so I apologize. I'll get you a correct link. Basically, it's, again, you're going to go to destiny.aisd.net. I think if you pick that, it will be a much more effective way to get to the library resources. So what that looks like, library.aisd.net, since you can't get where I want you to go. Oh, come on, you're killing me. I did it wrong because it's not library, it's Destiny. Guys, no one's speaking up to help me out. Destiny. So it looks like this. It's going to give you all of the campuses. So you're going to pick a campus that you want to look at, and you're going to run with it. For the sake of right now, I'm just going to click on Bailey. And then, like our Canvas course said, you have all of this. On the left, you have ebooks. This is what we're talking about, is this section over here. Okay. So the first one is Sora. Sora is created by the Overdrive library app folks. Sora is good, but it only has one book per student. You're not going to be able to use this in things like lit circles, where you want multiple kids reading the same text. However, for self-selected texts, it's really easy to just have your kids get in Sora. They can search for it and they can read that on their own. No, but again, it is one book per student per campus, I believe. And so what's going to happen is if you've got 6 kids in the campus wanting Hunger Games, it's going to be first come, first serve. However, it is another resource with some ebooks for your kids to read. Tumble books or Teen Cloud books. This again is books. It's worth noting there's not a list, so your kids are not going to be able to click on an alphabetized list of the ebooks. However, it is searchable by genre and some other things like that. They can search a book title. They just can't scroll down a list. This has multiple copies of the same book, so you might be able to use this if you were going to do something like lit circles where you wanted 4 kids to read the same book. You could pick the titles you want from maybe our approved list or from what's provided through the Teen Cloud ebooks, and your kids can go through this portion of the library website and access the book through there. EBSCO books, again, no list, but searchable. It's like Teen Book Cloud. Or Teen Cloud books. It has multiple copies, and again, might be preferable for lit circles. Either way, you come to the same place. It's right here. Tumble books are going to be more picture books. That could be useful if you're trying to teach a basic plot concept and you want to just use a picture book to click through really quick to show them. You might choose to use Tumble books and you can get it and project it or whatever. So those were kind of the reason we wanted to point those out. Your first unit out of the gate, again, is about reading and writing habits and skills. And there's a lot of self-selected work. You're going to need your kids to get access to a book, and the ones that maybe can't get to the library or can't get to something like that, referring them to these resources can help get a book in the hands of every kid. Tumble books read-alongs, yes, those are fun. Those are a lot of fun. So that's our library page. I am aware that it is 3:40. I'm going to attempt to make this move quickly. I'm going to forego questions about library at this time so I can get you into this next piece. This is put together from our library services people. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I've got a frog in my throat. Being virtual, we really want to make sure everyone is aware of some of the rules and laws in place with copyright. The first reaction everyone has when we know we're going virtual is I'm just going to go to the internet, I'm going to capture something, and I'm going to put it in my Canvas course. And the fact is, you may not have the rights to that material. And as sad as this is, there are folks that sit around all day on the computer visiting school websites, district websites, looking for copyright violations. And when they find it, they contact the publisher or author of that material, and they tell them, hey, did you know your stuff, your video, your picture, your book, your article is being used without permission? And then the district gets sued. And the hard truth is, when the district gets sued, if push comes to shove, they may have to fire you over your copyright violation. So we want you to have this information and not fall into the trap. I'm going to go through these slides really quickly with the exception of a couple of slides. So this is not legal advice. We're simply giving you information about copyright that you will not see if I don't show it to you today. So, but if you get sued, this is not going to serve as any kind of defense. As we know, this is not a copyright, is not a case of see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. It is a matter of law, so we want to make sure we're aware of what the rules are. You'll also notice that all the pictures in here are cited, and most of them come from Creative Commons, which we'll talk about in a minute. Why bother? You bother because if you created something, you would not want it to be plagiarized and used without credit. And so we want to provide the same courtesy. We want to be ethical models for our students. And we want to also avoid being sued and possibly losing our jobs. The employee handbook, you have access to this, so feel free to come back and look at it. The AISD Board of Director policy is in the handbook, and you can find it at that link. It'll take you to it, and you can read about what you signed on to do when you signed the handbook. Copyright is federal law, okay? It basically is about that relationship between the creator and the consumer, and it provides protections for people and what they make so that their stuff cannot be stolen. Copyright infringement is basically theft of another person's work. We usually don't think of what we do when we take things out of a Google search as theft, but that can be what it amounts to. We need to do one of two things. We need to make sure we've either gotten permission to use it, or having an exception by using material that is actually licensed for us to use. So if it's tangible, it's copyrighted, and that includes digital material. You know the copyright symbol, you've seen it for forever. Exceptions, yay! Things that are 94 or more years from the original publication date or 70 years after the death of the author. This has recently been changed. It used to be 75 years after the publication date. And I'm going to let you in on a secret. Copyright law usually changes whenever Mickey Mouse's copyright comes up. What basically happens is Disney has an ironclad grip on Mickey Mouse, and most of the changes to the copyright laws have corresponded with the year before Mickey's copyright expires. And so up until, guess what? Mickey's copyright expired, I believe, in 2020 or 2021. And look at that. It got changed from 75 to 95 years. So that is something you need to be aware of when using material. Myth number one, we're going to go through some myths really quickly. If it's on the internet, it's fair use. That is a lie. If it's on the internet, it's still somebody's intellectual property. Myth number two, it's educational, so of course I can use it, and that is called fair use. That is also a lie. Just because you're using it for education does not mean that you actually have permission to use We'll get into that more in a minute. Fair use is a legal defense in court, not an excuse to break the law, okay? And it allows for very limited use of material. Which are these? Number one, the first factor of fair use is the purpose and character of use. Is the use for nonprofit educational purposes? Okay, that's number one. But if you answer yes, it is, that doesn't mean you're in the clear. Number two, what is the nature of the copyrighted work? Is it factual or creative? Is it published work or not? You need to know how the work was intentionally created. Okay. Number three, the amount or essence of work used factors into fair use. You can't just use an entire piece. However, you can use portions. We'll get into that in a minute. And two, we need to know the effect of on the market or for the creator. Is my use impacting their ability to make a living? So, what favors the use of fair defense? If it's only occasional and limited, I can't put something on a Canvas course and then use it every year, year in and year out. However, I can use it for this small stretch and then take it down, and then I can pull it out again next time I need it. But it cannot be something that lives in perpetuity. Classroom use only, research or scholarship directly related to educational objectives. So you can't just show a video clip because you think it's fun. It has to tie into what you're needing it for. It also needs proper citation. We need to give credit to who we're taking it from. You also need to use the correct quantity again. You can't use the whole work, and I believe there's a slide in a second that'll talk about quantity. And again, it cannot affect the market. We recently heard about a group, there was a professional development, and the person giving the professional development used a huge chapter from this book. It wasn't a long book, it was a short book. And they used a whole chapter to build their session on, and a session for over 100 people. Well, that's 100 books that the author could have sold, and that the district ended up getting sued because 100 books at $20 a book doesn't seem like a lot, but that's $2,000 of sales. And so that was a valid lawsuit. So you have to pick and choose what you use, and it cannot impact the market. Things that oppose it: commercial use, entertainment use, broad distribution. If it's unpublished, like somebody wrote something, it's unpublished, and I stole it, that can work against you. Extensive excerpts. If it's we've made it accessible on the internet for anyone to get to. Also, anything you post on the internet, for it to be protected, it needs to be password protected. So making sure it's on Canvas where just not anyone can get to it. Fair use guidelines are here on that link. Again, you have access to this Canvas course and we'll be able to click the link and go view it. So I'm not going to spend time on it right now. We're going to keep going because I'm almost out of time. Okay. Couple of ways to do this. First, it is always safest to ask the copyright holder for permission. That means if there's a book I want to use and it's not on our approved list and we didn't buy you a copy and it's not in the HMH textbook, you insist on using it, email the author or the publishing company and ask for permission. And don't wait until the day before you're supposed to use it. You need to be emailing months or weeks to months in advance. It takes them time to respond. Just a little tidbit there. Terms of use. You need to read the terms of use. A lot of times we skip them. However, some of those could get you into legal trouble. They also have copyright details in them that say you can or cannot use it. Some publishers give permissions to do read alouds. Again, clicking that link will show you some best practices, and you need to contact the publisher if you want to know if you have that permission. Or your campus librarian is also a useful resource. Online materials. Downloading is the same as making a copy. If you don't have permission, you can't download it. Or you can't disperse it, I mean. OERs, open education resources. These are best practice because Creative Commons is basically a website that houses a lot of these materials. but you have to look at the details. Some Creative Commons or some OERs are for fair use. You can use for whatever you want. They're free licensed. Some of them you can use, but you have to cite them, give a proper citation. So you just need to be aware of those pieces. I actually have Creative Commons bookmarked here. It looks like this. Well, this is the old Creative Commons. They've actually updated it. If you're looking for pictures to put in slideshows, I highly recommend using Creative Commons to do your search, because it'll take you to some things that are free. And you just search for images and it gives you a chance to search it, and it searches the internet for you of things that are free to use. Print materials. You can only use 10% of print materials or 1,000 words, whichever is less. Okay. When in doubt, link to the original. Okay. When in doubt, link to the original. If you're using an article from a newspaper, link to it. That way you don't have to worry about stealing anything. However, you also need to be aware some newspapers are firewalled, where you can only access things 3 times in a month. You'll need to be aware if it's a resource you go to a lot. How many times have you asked your students to use it? This is about this. I'm going to speak to it. If the author gave permission in my previous district and I want to use it in Arlington, does it carry over? I would not assume so. It might very well carry over, but it's best practice not to assume it carries over. So I would either follow up on that, and that's how I would actually ask the publisher or the author. I would say, you gave me permission when I was in such and such district. I've moved to Arlington. Do I still have permission to use it? And a lot of my answers on this copyright issue are going to be very conservative. That's because when it comes to potential lawsuits and losing your job over something, it's better to be safe than sorry. Videos. If you want to embed it, you need to make sure you've cited it. And also you need to know that a 3-minute video or 10% of the total work, whichever is less, this applies to YouTube videos. And the district actually has a video policy that you're not supposed to use more than 3 minutes of video in your lesson without getting permission. So you need to check that. And remember, students hold copyright to their works. So obviously we're not publishing and using their stuff in other places unless we have asked them for permission to use the work. There's a lot of license, the stuff for Creative Commons is in here, so you can go see what those licenses look like. And I am almost out of time, so I'm going to very quickly click through these myths. No, just because it's behind a login does not mean it's good. You still have to follow citation rules and have permission for it to exist behind the password. Come in here and look at the distance education. It has a lot of rules for about how to deal with students and their resources and materials online. Plagiarism, this is just another thing to keep in mind. It's unacknowledged use of someone's work. Copyright is unauthorized use of the work. I know this seems like a fine line, but it is a bigger deal than you think. Can I just Google? No. In Google, there's actually a place to select the usage rights in your search. You're going to want to reference that if you want to make sure you're using safe material that you have permission to use. So you click on Tools and then Usage Rights, and you select Non-Commercial Reuse with Modification. And anything that pops up, you'll be able to use. Google Images. It's kind of what we talked about, how to use those. If you're creating a citation, you need to go to the original thing. You cannot use the Google search URL as your citation. You actually have to click on the image, go to wherever it's housed, whether that's Pixabay or Flickr or wherever, and you actually have to get the citation from that one. There's a link to Creative Commons. There's a link to some other free image resources and even a free music resource, because guess what? Music's copyrighted too. This is more information about Overdrive and ebooks. And done. Oh my gosh, that's a lot of information. I am sorry, guys. I had hoped not to be rushing through this. We actually have a whole nother component we're not even going to get to. because we just don't have the time. It was some model lessons we were going to show you, but that stuff we'll save for a later date. All right, I am very aware that it's 3:56, and I'm going to just show you the Canvas course in case you haven't seen it. There's all of these links down here, and there's a mentor text lesson about teaching with mentor texts. I'm going to ask you to go ahead and skip down in the Canvas course to the last section, the course feedback and attendance information. You will get credit today by filling out that attendance form. If you don't fill it out, I can't guarantee you credit. I'm going to put these slides up on the screen real quick. First, the feedback form. And so if you can, open a couple of windows and do these. I'm going to send the attendance link in just a second. So bear with me, bear with me. And it'll also be on the screen with a QR code, so you can just snap the QR code on your phone here in a second. But for feedback, you'll go to bit.ly/AISD feedback. It's going to take you to a website. You will need this exact course code, 796510. And when you enter that course code, it'll make sure that your feedback goes to me. Feel free to be as harsh as possible. I don't get better at what I do unless you give me feedback. And for the sake of time, I'm going to click ahead. I'll come back to this if someone needs the slide more, but again, it's in Canvas. The attendance link, the part you really need to get credit for being here. You will click on the appropriate link or scan that QR code that you see on your screen. 6th grade is on the left, 7th and 8th grade are on the right. And that'll take you to a Google form that you will fill out. If you don't fill out the Google form, you will not get credit for being here. Cannot stress that enough. All right, so while you're doing that, I'm going to go back through the chat, but I also want to open it up for any questions that I can answer for you really quick. So I'm scrolling. The question came in, how do we get the login info for Team Book Cloud and library services? Contact your librarian. Your campus librarian should have a list of all the different logins you need for those resources. If you don't know who your campus librarian is, usually you can find that information on your campus website under staff. The staff page will have the librarian's name, and you'll be able to email them through there. I also, in the course, there was a clip sheet. Let me go back. There was a click sheet for Sora, I believe, that explained how to get through it. And there's a Tumble Books. So let me open that real quick. The click sheet in there should have it there.
Is the course name ELAR Curriculum Overview, grades 6 through 8, or ELAR New Standards and Curriculum Overview?
Curriculum Overview 6-8.
Okay.
You'll want to do the 6-8 one.
Thank you.
No, thank you for asking. Let me copy the. Okay, so I'm putting the address links in the chat. So the grade 6 link is in there now. If that doesn't work, tell me, because I just copy and pasted it and I should have just typed it. Grade 6. Y/AISD NT 6th grade. There's the 6th grade one again, but you'll have to copy and paste it because it didn't hyperlink.
And if we've got everything, are we able to leave?
Yeah, if you have everything and have no questions, feel free to leave. All this information will be left on the Canvas course. You can get back into it, and you're welcome to email me. My email address is not in this course, but it should be somewhere in here. I'll get it to you if you need it.
Okay, thanks, sir.
Thank you, guys. Sorry to keep you so late. If you have questions, feel free to stick around.
Jordan, you mentioned attending the session on August 12th.
Yes.
What exactly is that? I'm sorry.
So we every year will have Every year we have a whole professional learning day. It's a district-wide day.
Okay.
And basically there are some sessions, some required, some not, that are just some professional development specifically for all of our teachers district-wide, not just new teachers. So there, if you haven't gotten it already, you should have gotten a resource that has some links and course descriptions of that. Sorry, I'm trying to keep an eye on things. Yes, Heather, you should get the credit you need for this. Some of the stuff was incorrect on their end when they made that form. So go ahead and fill out the attendance form, and the credit should be assigned correctly. Anyway, sorry, Arnita, I'm sorry. Anyway, in that course catalog, there will have the list of the sessions, and you'll just want to make sure you've signed up for any required sessions for your grade level. And then outside of those required sessions, you can sign up for any additional piece that you feel is interesting or applicable to your work. So for example, 7th grade, most of the day is spoken for 7th grade because you'll have a session with me first thing in the morning. And then there will be an empowering writers session for training for our writing resource that we use. And that'll be all afternoon. And so you'll have a window from 10 o'clock to 12 that you can pick any session you want to attend during that window. 8th grade has 1 required session, and 6th grade has 1 required session. And those are all with me. So your campus
I'm sorry, I didn't, what I was trying to say is, okay. So I'm going to receive this link from where?
Well, there's a couple different ways you can go about it. One, there's a long way I can tell you how to get to it, and a short way.
Or do I just need to reach my campus administrators on this?
The campus administrators can probably have it more handy than I do.
Okay.
I'm going to show you, I can show you another place to get it. If you go to aisd.net/internet, which is actually linked in your click sheet, it's not listed as internet, it's listed as library services. The long link got in there. But it'll take you to this page on the screen sharing right now.
Okay.
And if you scroll down to this part that says Access Weekly, there will be some different things in here that will kind of tell you, it's just basically this page is about news for you. And one of these pieces should be the learning opportunities.
Okay, well, I'll find out.
And Arnita, I know on my Access, it will automatically pop up like a little box that says something about professional development.
Okay.
So when you log into that, it might pop that box up. And if you click on that box, it'll take you to the options for that day.
Okay. Okay. That'll work. I'll check into it then.
And worst case scenario, if you go to Strive, I don't know if you've been into that yet.
Right. I have.
There's a way to go when you look at available courses, you should be able to filter it by click on district wide, and it should filter it. And then inside of that, I think you can also filter it even further to like English language arts, and then that'll just show you the courses for that, and then you just find the ones for your grade level.
Okay. Okay, that's what I'll do then. Thank you. All right, well, I'll fill out the link about the session and go from there. I did the attendance already.
Awesome.
Yes, so thank you. Great job.
Thank you. Sorry, it's so much information.
It's just the way it is. It's good.
Oh, yes.
All right, take care.
You too.
Jordan, I have a quick question.
Absolutely.
Just the one I asked earlier about the online, because I was told at our campus that they possibly, even if we go back face to face, most of the kids' work will be done online, just because I guess of the age of the 6th graders. Something
that has been. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just curious. Like, I know that there's lots of information and lots of links for the, on those documents that we looked at, and I just wanted to see, are we able to use those for that? Are we going to have to do something to make them ready for online?
Okay, so the stuff that a lot of the things that are currently posted were posted before we knew we would be online.
Okay.
Like first 6 weeks material actually posted back in April or May.
Okay.
And so we were still thinking we're going to get to go back to school in the fall.
Right.
So I didn't, at that point in time, I didn't spend a lot of time adapting resources. So your first 2 6 weeks, a lot of it is still print.
Okay.
My goal is that as I prep for unit 3 in the third 6 weeks, I'm hoping to start putting a few more things in there that are maybe Google Doc or Google Form, or I actually posted one for the second 6 weeks that I added last minute.
Okay.
I posted that last week. That's in Jamboard. I don't know if you've ever used Jamboard.
No, I've heard of it, but I haven't used it.
I made it basically, it's super simple because I haven't used it a lot, but it's all it is a, the one I made is just, it has instructions and the kids click on the little post-it note icon and then they will leave a post-it with the answer. And then you'll be able to just look at those post-its and say, so I see this post-it has blah, 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 and you can talk about them in real time.
Okay.
There are 1,000 other uses for Jamboard that are way more complicated than that, but I was trying to, one, I was trying to play with it, and two, I was trying to give something different.
Yeah, just a little easy, like a simple thing. Well, I mean, and I'm sure we can accommodate, we'll make do. I just wanted to ask you before I pass it, because actually Dina Peterman and I were talking about it yesterday, and so she was like, I think we're going to be online, so even after they come back, we're going to still be online. So that was just a question I had with.
We've been encouraging teachers to actually find a way that even once they're face-to-face, or once we go back to the student choice, where there's some in the classroom and some at home, to save teachers the headache, if you're building that course out in Canvas, your kids in class can still do the work in Canvas, right?
Yes, instead of having pencil paper stuff to, and then it's all saved in one place. Yeah.
One more touch point.
Yeah, exactly. It becomes more of like they're like a kind of a folder of their learning too throughout the year, which is neat to look back on as well. So.
Right.
Okay.
And this is where I wish Canvas had a couple more functional pieces like Seesaw does.
Yeah.
Because then all of these resources you could just upload into Seesaw, and they could, on tablets or in their computer, like click on it and type in the resource. Unfortunately, I'm not sure if Canvas has all that functionality. However, most of the resources like, I'm trying to find a good one here. I'm not sharing anymore, so you can't see what I was trying to look at. So this is our first 6 weeks. A lot of these resources, though, I could still upload. Like the slide deck, obviously, you just drop that in. But like, if I wanted to do this one, this visualized chart, which is an HMH resource, which means you may be able to just give it to them through HMH. But I might be able to find a way to make this in Canvas using our new H5P resource, or in a Google Doc. And that's something I'm wanting to teach everybody later, is how to do a Google Doc where it forces like doing a force copy. Have you ever seen that?
I've seen it, yeah.
Okay, it's really a lot easier than you think. But giving the kids a link to force copy, where you have given them at the top of the page, you want them to tell you what the text says. And then at the bottom of a page, they can either type or insert clip art or do something that's what they're picturing, right? Where you could still do the same activity in a virtual place, if you just did it as a Canvas submission.
Okay.
You could give them options to either type it or do a video, or maybe you have them draw a picture and they screen grab the picture and upload that into Canvas for what they're visual. Like, so that's something we're going to talk about more at district wide. But yeah, for the first couple of units, you'll notice a lot of them are still going to be kind of pencil paper.
Okay.
And the legwork on the teacher end is going to be, how can I adapt this? And then I'm hoping moving forward, I will be able to give you more hybrid options.
Okay. Well, and I was going to say too, like some of these you can recreate pretty easily to get the gist of what you're asking them to do, and create a new document just for yourself, for them to be able to manipulate. So it's not a big deal. I just wanted to ask you before we did any work like that, just to make sure, because I know you had said some of them will be, but some of them wouldn't be. So.
And you'll notice a lot of them are very simple. like the graphic organizers and things are not super complex.
Right.
That's for a reason. I don't want to give you guys anything, even if you were in class and using pencil and paper. It needs to be simple for the kids to read and understand.
Right. Absolutely.
But I think that also makes it very easy to translate those into, something else. Like if we were using poetry and we're looking at figurative language and interpreting meaning, well, I've got a graphic organizer for that. But I could also just as easily have a Google form where the kids go to the Google form. The first thing they fill out is their name or whatever. Then they do their text evidence, a line from the poem. And then they write, what does that mean? Like, what are they comparing? And then the last part could be, why do you think the author used that comparison? Done.
Right.
Right? It's that easy. It's just giving them the opportunity, and we just have to let our brains think to that level.
Okay. Will do. I just wanted to ask you before I got off.
Now, Melanie,
Thank you so much for everything.
I haven't gone to my spreadsheet. Where are you? You are...
I'm at Pope Elementary.
Okay, you're not on my... Oh, that's because I said 6th grade teachers don't need to do it.
Yeah, you said not to do it.
Yeah, no, that's right. Because, well, for 6th grade, because some of you are isolated, our breakout rooms at district-wide are going to be mixed campus.
Okay.
My junior high campuses have 3 to 5 teachers teaching
Okay,
ELAR.
that teach the same.
So
yeah.
they're going to group together, and my new teachers don't all have email addresses yet. So I needed
gosh.
and some of them still didn't give me.
We have 2 on our team. Dina Peterman and I will be teaching the language arts and social studies at Pope for 6th grade. And we have 2 teachers for the other subjects as well. So we're pretty much going to all be doing things together, we've decided. I mean, we'll be there for each other's kids when we need to be. And, it's just going to make sense to build that community before they come back. So.
Absolutely.
Well, we're all going to just be their teachers